You're listening to the Parents of Hardworking Teens podcast, episode 34, the difference between hardworking and overworking, and how to ensure your teen can work hard without burning out so they achieve great things and still have a great life balance. I'm Katie Jones, and with over 15 years in education as an award-winning high school teacher, international external examiner, and as a study coach, I've helped thousands of students skyrocket their results and confidence. And this podcast is where I share all my insights, tactics, and tips with you, the parent, so you can help your hardworking teen get happy, smart, and successful in their study, and have you both enjoy the journey along the way. This is the Parents of Hardworking Teens podcast. Hello, wonderful VIPs. I am so excited to talk to you about today's topic of hardworking versus overworking. Now, obviously, it's especially relevant in relation to the name of this podcast, Parents of Hardworking Teens, but also in terms of what I know many of you may be concerned about as your teen starts their new year group. Perhaps they are starting their senior years and all of those stories of exam stress and the increased workload are playing a little bit on your mind. Or perhaps last year's assignments or homework or assessments caused some issues or stress and you are worried about, or maybe even dreading that happening again, especially with the up-leveling of a new year group. And I so often hear from parents, or I see myself, students spending way too much time and effort and stress on certain tasks or assessments. Especially I see this happening, I have to say, with research assignments and essays. Or they're staying up all hours to revise longer and harder for exams. And so I want to talk about the difference between hard work, which I believe is often necessary. And I don't believe that it's a bad thing. It's often required to accomplish certain things. And it can be super beneficial when it comes to building a solid work ethic, building confidence and commitment and self-belief and pride, and providing that awesome feeling of having put in a hard day's work and having accomplished what you actually set out to do and doing it to a high standard. But there's a difference between that and overworking, which is what leads to burnout. It's often stressful, it's demoralizing, and it can, but doesn't always lead to actual accomplishment of the thing that we set out to do or the result that we wanted. And so I'm going to share with you my experiences and observations of both of these over the years, both in students that I see and work with, and in myself, I will also say, so that hopefully you can identify the difference and have your teen avoid the overworking and embrace more of the hard work when that is what's necessary. Because there are distinctions that I think show up no matter what year group your teen is in high school. So if you know anyone else who might also find this helpful, then please forward this episode onto them. Either just take a screenshot of whatever app or device you're listening to it on and message it to them, or send them the link www.rocksolidstudy.com/34 so that they can hear this and listen to this for themselves. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to share with you my personal definitions that I have come up with to distinguish between hardworking and overworking, because there are certainly some similarities between the two. Now, I may well continue to tweak these definitions over time, but right now, I would say that hard work is doing exactly what's required for a challenging task. Now, that might be challenging either in terms of quantity or the level of cognitive challenge. So it could just be that the amount that has to get done in a certain time is a challenge, or it could be that the level of difficulty is a challenge. But here's the key. It gets completed, whatever that task is, with the optimum amount of effort and in the minimum time. Importantly, a controlled and strategic and organized way. Now, I do kind of want to say minimum effort in there as well. I said minimum time, and I kind of want to say minimum effort because we do just want them putting in the exact amount of effort that's actually required, whether that's in physical or mental effort. Really, we just want them putting in what's actually required, not more. But if I say minimal, that might make it sound like I'm talking about taking shortcuts or skimping on things or just not truly working at the level that's required. And those are not likely then going to produce a high quality result. So I'm using the word optimal very intentionally for effort because the key point here is that they aren't putting in way more effort than is required for a particular result, which is what I know a lot of you see happening for your teen. I definitely know that I did that as well as a student, and I still do now sometimes in tasks as well. I don't think we ever perfect all of this. It's all just a work in progress, but putting in more effort than is required is often what ends up happening when things aren't being done in a controlled and strategic and organized way, which really takes us to the definition of overworking. Overworking is doing more than is required to achieve a certain outcome or result. So that might be going over and above with no reward for it, or by doing things that aren't actually needed, which often did used to be rewarded, I will say, in lower year levels, which is why this sometimes continues to happen. Or it might be that extra energy is exerted just through stress and confusion, or time is used up through mistakes and having to redo things, or like I said, by doing things that aren't actually giving any payoff. And I see two key differences in how these actually show up. Now, the first way is the feelings behind the work or that are driving that work. And when we are working hard, we feel confident and in control of what we're doing. We likely have some sort of schedule. We have at least some timings in mind, and we are on schedule. We have that awareness that we are on track. We're not doing something in a panic or last minute. We've planned it. We know what we're doing, and we know how to do it. Now, this doesn't mean that it is easy. We will still feel like we're putting in effort. It will feel hard, but it's at a good level of challenge. We can get in the zone, we can use our brain and really feel focused. And I talked about this appropriate level of challenge, if you like, in episode 30, which was called If It's Not Difficult, It's Not Doing Anything. So if something is easy, then it likely isn't going to produce any great results. So that if there isn't that level of challenge, then this isn't really hard work. If the work doesn't feel hard in some way, then we are likely not growing our skills or abilities or confidence, even if we still get a good mark at the end of it. Now, overworking feels very different. When we are overworking, we tend to feel stressed, either due to time pressure or due to those feelings of confusion or uncertainty about what we're actually or even doing. We have that feeling or those thoughts of, I don't know what I'm doing, or I'm never going to get this done, which can also lead to feelings of panic. We are rushing. And then, of course, we end up making mistakes, which either go unnoticed and bring the end mark or result down, or we have to go back and redo things, which takes up more time and energy, hence the overworking. Or there might also be that subtle feeling of desperation, where we end up trying to impress by going over and above what is required. Or we might end up doing more than is required just because we aren't sure about what to actually do or what really needs to go into that answer. So we end up, because we want to get a good result, we end up hedging our bets and we put in everything we can think of, what I call spaghetti throwing. Throwing spaghetti at the wall, writing down everything we can in the hope that some of it sticks or gets us some marks. And this almost always looks like some form of frantic work or rushed work and a stressed teenager. And it can also look like a lot of activity is happening. So there's a lot going on, but not much is actually getting done. I know this is a common issue. There's lots of note-taking or lots of study, in inverted commas, but not much in the way of accomplishment or results. Or there's just a lot of busy work that actually gives a false sense sometimes of accomplishment or of being in control, but it just isn't actually making that much difference to the end result. There isn't really much bang for buck or return on that effort or that work that's getting done. And so here's an interesting point that I want to make on that. The tasks that are being done, the actual work being done, could be the same whether they are working hard or overworking. So stick with me here for a second. Let's just say your teen could be doing extra practice questions in maths. And the hardworking version of your teen is doing this very strategically and intentionally. They've predetermined exactly which questions will give them maximum bang for buck in terms of how those questions will advance and reinforce their understanding and their ability in a particular maths concept or topic. And they know how much time they're going to spend on those questions, or at least have given it their best estimate. And they know how those questions are going to actually benefit them. But the overworking version of your teen would be doing those questions pretty randomly in a panic. They might be doing them because they're stressing about a test that they have tomorrow, or they're just feeling uncertain and lacking confidence in a topic. And they're doing extra practice questions in the hope, and hope, I will say, is not a strategy or a plan. There's a future podcast episode right there that I will do on that. But it is in the hope that it will help them. So the questions haven't been selected strategically ahead of time. Their time has not been planned, and they're working from a frantic, panicked energy and a stressed mind. And they think that just doing more questions is the way to more marks. And more hours, more study does not necessarily in itself guarantee more marks or higher grades. There is no straight line graph that directly links time and effort to results. And let me tell you, that is a good thing, because here is the other key difference. Overworking is not sustainable. Hard work is, because hard work is planned and strategic. There is a start and an end to each task, and there is not extra energy exerted with stress or panic or worry. All of the energy and effort is directed at the task at hand. So work is getting done in a calm and controlled manner, and that is a lot more sustainable, because calm is not the same as lazy. If we think about it, people like paramedics and nurses and firefighters, they have to be calm in their work. Yet it could be argued that they are some of the hardest workers. So hard work is about getting things done in an efficient and effective and calm and controlled way. And the more effective and efficient we are, when we think about it, the more time we then have for rest and relaxation, which creates a positive cycle. But when we're inefficient, things are taking longer than they should do. And of course, that then leads to the negative cycle of having less time for rest and more feelings of rush and stress and too much to do and not enough time. Because remember, stress is not from having too much to do. It's not knowing how you're going to get it all done. And I just said, remember there, but I actually don't know if I've said that on a podcast before. I've definitely said it on a webinar before. And actually, I have a brand new webinar coming up. I'm going to share more about that at the end of this episode. So if you want your teen to stay more in the zone of hardworking and be doing less of the overworking, then you definitely need to come to this webinar. But I'll say that sentence again. Stress is not having too much to do. It's not knowing how we're going to get it all done. Because if we have a lot to do, but we know exactly how to do it and how to get it done in the time we have available, we can still have a lot to do, but feel calm and in control. We might still have to work hard, but that doesn't mean it's stressful. Stress can be caused by even just having one thing to do and plenty of time to do it, but not feeling confident, not knowing how we're actually going to do it, feeling out of our depth. And this is why I'm all about giving students the how in their study. I think there are a lot of students out there who get the what, but they don't really have the how, or they certainly have some parts missing. They get the idea of study smarter, not harder, but they just don't know how, or they want to be able to actually answer the question or give more detail or whatever it is that they have been told they need to work on, but they don't really know how. And for students who push themselves and are committed, this can then lead to that overworking and the burnout and the unsustainable study. But the truth is, they just need the skills and strategies to be able to do this for themselves, to be able to study efficiently and effectively and do it independently, which is great news for them and, of course, for you as the parent. So, on that note, if you would like to discover more of that how and have me explain everything in detail with real life examples of tasks, essays, and exam questions with all new content, then that is exactly what I'm going to be doing in my free parent webinar. It is on Wednesday, the 1st of February. That is the day after this episode drops. It's called Your Teen's New Year Group, How to Have Them Nail It. And it's particularly for parents of teens starting in years 9 to 12 or 10 to 13, depending on your education system. And I know that there are also some of you listening who have teens that are not yet in those year groups, but of course they soon will be. And if you just want to get a head start, then that's absolutely great. You're really welcome. And any of you who have teens who are willing to watch this webinar with you, definitely they are welcome. Have them join in the fun with this as well. Now, it's a live webinar, so definitely go register right now if you are listening to this before 7 p.m. AEST. That's when we start on Wednesday, the 1st of February. So that's 8 p.m. Sydney time, 10 p.m. New Zealand, 5 p.m. Perth. And actually, when you go to the registration page, it's at www.gradetransformation.com/new. It will show up the time in the time zone that your device is set to, which is super handy. So I won't go through every single time zone. But if you're listening to this after that date, we will be recording the webinar and I am going to make the replay available and you can get access at that same web address until Monday the 6th. But the replay will not have all of the live features and content in there, including, I actually mentioned earlier in this episode, the huge time sap that research projects can turn into. I'm including in the webinar a special giveaway for all attendees of my top 6 Google tips so that your teen can easily find information, the information that they actually need, that actually comes from good sources, and do it fast. That is just one of the extra bonus additions in the webinar. And there are lots more, including the opportunity to win a personal coaching session with me for your teen. So definitely be there live and move around whatever you need to make that possible. And here's to a year of your teen feeling confident and in control, to having them do less of the overworking and having their hard work pay off. Have a wonderful week. I'll see you back here next week and I'll hopefully see you at the webinar. You can register for free at www.gradetransformation.com/new. It is going to be jam-packed and I can't wait. If you're ready to have your teen achieve their best possible results with less stress, then I want to invite you to enroll them in the 10-week Grade Transformation program, where they're going to learn the key concepts, skills, and strategies to catapult their performance in assessments and exams. It's risk-free. They either achieve bigger and better results with a whole lot more confidence in 10 weeks, or we refund you in full. Just head over to www.rocksolidstudy.com/program and I'll see you there.